Mazda has updated its CX-60 mid-size SUV for Australia, bringing in some changes to the suspension and steering on the back of customer and media feedback. Basically, the initial feedback was the suspension wasn't as resolved as perhaps it should be for a mid-size premium SUV. And then the steering, yeah, just some fine tuning there just to make it feel a bit nicer. I'm here at Lang Lang Proving Ground as part of the media launch event. We've got a few different examples to play around with down there, including some pre-facelifted or pre-updated models, so we can compare the difference right there back to back. We're going to do a number of different exercises, including a slalom test and then a moose test, as well as a handling test around a kind of country road set up around the inside of this facility. This example is the lower mid-spec touring variant, but it comes with pretty much everything you need. I like the interior of Mazdas, and this is no different. You've got quality dashboard, no scratchy plastics in the obvious places, and then, yeah, some interesting trim down there. But overall, I think it's a great family car package. I probably wouldn't go with the upper spec models unless you want that bit more flamboyance, like you can get different color interiors and so on, which are really nice. There's even a suede option you can get that's got, yeah, really nice soft suede all across the dash. It's really cool to look at, but I just think it would wear a little bit quicker than this leather style or vinyl or whatever. And then down here as well. You can also get this light wood colored trim for the center console, which again, looks good on first impressions, but I think it would show the dirt a little bit too much. But in saying that, I do like a light interior. Just brightens up the cabin a bit. This is all black pretty much, but they have done pretty good with the light interior in terms of wear and tear, because you've got black sections on the inside of the door handle, for example, and then white leather here. So that might wear out or show the marking, show the dirt and everything, but it's good that it's black on the inside. But yeah, there's probably some trim levels that just are going to show a bit more dirt than others. And then in the back, you've got a decent amount of room. This is probably about average for this class, I reckon. It actually sits pretty high, like I've got a good view out the front. So if you've got kids or something, you don't want them to feel claustrophobic, I think this is pretty good. Like I don't feel like I'm sunken in the back of a dungeon or something like that. You do have climate vents, multiple charging options, including an Australian 12-volt socket there, 220 volts, 150 watts. With the new model, they have brought down the prices a little bit. There's a new entry pure grade, which starts from around $50,000. I don't know if this will move the vehicle into the lower category in VFAX figures, but basically this is now a non-premium mid-size SUV. So yeah, theoretically it should drop it down from that premium segment like BMW X3, Audi Q5 and all that, back down into the sort of Toyota RAV4, Mitsubishi Outlander segment according to VFAX classification. For a mid-size SUV, I think it's pretty good value now. Especially if you go for the lower grades like this touring. It comes with pretty much everything that you need. It just doesn't have the big wheels and some of that flash interior. Even got a power tailgate on this grade, which is nice. Got pull tabs on the side so you can pop down the rear seats from the back here. And you've got some storage underneath with a space saver spare wheel. I love that Mazda is offering all powertrain options for every grade. So you can actually get the base pure grade with the top spec, or what I would call a top spec, 3.3 turbo-petrol inline-6 engine. That's what this has got, 209 kilowatts, 450 Newton meters. There's no changes to any of the powertrains, but Mazda Australia has confirmed there will be a new entry model coming later this year, a 2.5 four-cylinder. They haven't said if it will be a mild hybrid, or just straight petrol, but the main focus is value. So they've confirmed the price tag will start with a 4. I don't know whether that's high 4s, mid 4s or what, but it will start with a 4. It's a bit of a shame that it doesn't sound as good as some inline sixes. There's a little bit of vibration, which I was hoping they would get rid of. You can kind of feel it through the driveline tunnel as well if you just floor it, like you want to do some overtaking or something like that. High in the RPM, there's this kind of, I don't know whether it is actual vibration or just a sound making it, you know, a perceived vibration, but there's something there that's Like an inline six is usually very balanced and sings, like it gets up to revs very smoothly, whereas this, it kind of just sounds a bit harsh in the higher RPM. I think what's actually hurting that is it does have some fake sound coming through into the speakers, which might be, you know, it only has to be one frame off with the engine in sync in terms of being in sync, and then it will start to sound a bit kind of stereo, if that makes sense. But that's what kind of makes it sound like it's got vibrations, but I don't know. I think there are inline sixes that are a bit more balanced and smoother than that. But as I said though, it is awesome that Mazda does offer an inline six in a mid-size SUV. I reckon it's really cool. And it's with a rear-wheel drive biased platform as well. So north-south engine orientation. I've already done the exercises, and yeah, around the big country road circuit here, you can feel the difference, particularly in the rear end. Before, or the old model, used to really bounce and buck when you go over, you know, pretty big undulations and so on, whereas now it's just much more resolved. It slows down the movement of the car. And there's also a little section over the back where we go through these kind of drain ditches kind of thing. And yeah, even through that, it's catching the vehicle and catching the body movement much quicker than the old model. The old model, at 30 kilometers an hour, it was almost bottoming out the suspension, like you could feel it really compressing the suspension right down to the end of its range, whereas the new model, it didn't do that. It just stayed quite nice and taut. I think it's a good balance now. Over the country road, it's not too firm, but it still has that sort of sporty edge, but it's able to absorb bumps better than before. So these, keep in mind, these are the base spec models, so they've got the taller profile tires. If you want, you know, sportier handling, you can move your way up to the GT or something. It feels pretty good. It's not too much body roll happening, and it's yeah, it just feels like it's got a lot of control.
Well done.
The slalom test, we didn't actually go around in the pre-facelifted model, so I don't know what the difference is there, but we'll go out onto the public roads now and just see what it's like in real world situations. Out on the road, the steering still feels a little bit disconnected in my opinion. Like there's, especially on the highway, you've got to keep making little adjustments. It just doesn't feel natural. The suspension does seem to be improved along roads like this. So this is a typical Australian country road. You've got different tarmac surfaces, ripples and a bit of patchwork and so on, but still winding road as well. So you still need handling, you need to retain body control, body roll and all that sort of thing, but you still want comfort. So this is walking a pretty fine balance, I think. It's still got that sportiness, that sort of tautness over little bumps, but it's not as sharp. Like if I hit a reflector thing on the ground, it's not going to make a big vibration through the cabin. I'll just try it. There's no cars coming. I'll wait until I get to a bit of a straight bit. But yeah, it is definitely not as, let's try this one. Yeah, hardly even feel it. Whereas before it was a bit more jolty. There is still some compression, like it will still absorb big bumps, but it absorbs them slowly, so it's not as jolty. It does still feel a little bit heavy, in my opinion. It's, at 1900 kilograms pretty much for a mid-size SUV. It's pretty heavy, but considering this comes with a lot of luxuries and so on, well, not this spec that I'm in right now, but yeah, a lot of them come with quite a few luxuries and leather everywhere and all that sort of thing. That does weigh the vehicle down. The biggest gripe for me though is this transmission. It's just too clunky and overly complex for this style of vehicle. So it's got engine, clutch, electric motor, clutch, then gearbox. It's just, yeah, that doesn't make sense in my opinion. It is possible to have an electric motor housed within a torque converter automatic. I mean, BMW's got one, so it is possible to do. I don't know why Mazda just didn't do that. This sort of setup, it might be a little bit quicker during upshifts, but these days torque converter automatics are very quick, and for a vehicle like this, you know, you don't need those fractions of a second of upshift speed. You know, it's not a supercar. So I would rather have a torque converter automatic. I think it would be so much smoother and it would match these inline six engines even better. Obviously they do improve fuel economy though, this twin clutch setup, because all of them offer really good on paper fuel consumption. I'm in the 3.3 turbo-petrol inline six at the moment, and it's averaging 8.4, which is awesome. And this is on test too. So usually on these launch events, you know, we get only a few hours with the car. They're usually, you know, a little bit thrashed, a little bit pushed. So to have 8.4 showing on this test, I think is really, really good. You'd get it down into the 7s easily in the real world with normal use, you know. The diesel is even better. It's rated at just 5 litres per 100 kilometres, which is incredible for an inline six diesel, 3.3 litres as well. So you've got heaps of power and torque for that style of engine. And then if you want absolute economy, obviously the plug-in hybrid is the pick. But overall, yeah, this is just a light update. I like the way that Mazda has moved back down into the non-premium class. I don't know if that's going to be reflected in VFAX, but yeah, that entry price of around $50,000 just makes a bit more sense for a Mazda badge. And I don't really mean that in a bad way. It just makes sense. Yeah, if someone's going to go shopping for a Mazda 3 or a CX-5 or something, and then they see these, it's a little bit pricier, but it makes sense because they are, you know, a bit more premium. But to the level of being a full premium car, I just don't know if the market would accept that or has accepted that. I'll have more details, including the price breakdown and all that, in the full review, linked in the description of this video.